Joining us now from New York via Newsmax phone, the CEO of the Concerned Veterans of America. We welcome Pete Hegseth to our program. Pete, following your graduation from Princeton, you were commissioned as an infantry officer in the National Guard, serving as an infantry platoon leader. You went to Iraq. During your time there, you were awarded the Bronze Star for your actions on the battlefield. Now, in a different role, you're fighting for your fellow veterans. And before we get to the VA scandal, we would be remiss, Pete, if we did not talk about the feelings of you and your brothers in arms as you see what you fought for in Iraq starting to unravel.
Yeah, it's maddening. It's maddening to see all of those gains, the progress that was made through the surge, effectively given away because of an administration that is obsessed, and I truly believe with ending the wars and getting out as opposed to finishing them properly or seeing them through. Even just a residual force, I think, would have prevented so many of the political miscalculations and obviously military retreat that the Iraqi army was involved in. So yeah, it's also very it's a helpless feeling because there's nothing you can really do about it. I relate now much more to Vietnam veterans and the sort of I know what they felt like during the fall of Saigon. I mean, when you're watching what you did fade away, it's a pretty frustrating thing to be a part of.
Well, you see that, and you say now this creates a bond or at least an empathy with those who served in Vietnam. There may be other feelings of empathy that come along, Pete, in the wake of what we're seeing with the VA healthcare scandal. During my days in Congress, we would do so much constituent work, veterans saying they couldn't get a straight answer from the VA. I don't know if you've had any experience with them, but we know that this week, the Office of Special Counsel sent a scathing letter along with the report to the White House describing a case in which two veterans in a VA psychiatric facility languished for years without proper treatment. In one case, a veteran with a service-connected psychiatric condition in a facility for 8 years before receiving a full evacuation. In the second case, the veteran had only a note in his medical chart as an inpatient for 7 years at a Massachusetts facility. Pete, you look at this situation. Is VA healthcare rotten to its core?
Yes, I mean, this is systemic. It is not just Phoenix, as you rattled off two other examples, and it's not just access to care. I mean, a big part of this is access to care, timely care, but also there's a lot of questions about, once you're in there as well, how uneven that care really is. And let's not forget that delayed care is denied care, is bad care. So it is an infected system. In order to change it, you've got to go down to the roots and change the culture. And thankfully, there's some legislation out there. We're trying to keep it as focused as possible on accountability so that people can be fired, because no one has been fired. It's nearly impossible to fire an employee at the Department of Veterans Affairs, like it is across government. And on choice, a veteran, if they're waiting for 7 years, or if they're waiting for 6 months, or if they're waiting for any extended period of time, should have the option to go to a private facility and get the basic care there that the country has promised them. Because the VA is breaking promises day in and day out with veterans who should be getting the best quality care, and instead they're treated like second-class citizens in their own system.
The report slams the VA's medical review agency for its refusal to actually admit that lapses in its care have affected veterans' health. What has your organization seen in this?
Well, it's yet another example. It's yet another data point. It is validating what whistleblowers have been saying, what doctors have been saying, what clerks have been saying, what veterans have been saying. I mean, frankly, that's the thing here. If anyone's talked to a veteran or veterans at the grassroots level, this is not. They've been saying this for years. This is not a new problem. It just took allegations of veterans literally dying while waiting, or dying while receiving poor care, for people to wake up and realize that this is a national crisis. So we're glad folks are coming around to the realization, but it's long overdue, because this is a system, this is top-down, government-run, single-payer health care manifesting itself before our eyes, which leads to de facto rationing, leads to wait times, leads to bureaucracy, clerks making decisions that doctors should be making. This is symptomatic of what government does when it tries to deliver things. It does it inefficiently and poorly. So this poor care that we're talking about today is a predictable result of that.
Pete, as you mentioned this, I can't help but note the fact that at the dawn of Obamacare, there were commentators and columnists on the left saying, oh, look to the VA healthcare system of an example of what happens when we allow government to lead the way. Instead, this has disintegrated into, well, a cautionary note to most Americans, but for the military community, for veterans, and for those on whom we depend to join our all-volunteer forces. Will this healthcare scandal have an adverse effect on recruits and manpower for our nation's military?
That's a good question, an important question. I don't know. I think if I'm someone who's considering joining, and I look at the state of the Department of Veterans Affairs right now, it might add some questions to what I want to do. I hope not, because the military deserves our best and brightest. But it is this is a scandal that it's going to cut across generations, as we talked about Vietnam veterans. It's going to affect future generations. It's a great point, and something that I think everyone needs to fundamentally understand, that the cost of war and the implications of these scandals are going to affect future generations. And thankfully, though, we're not going to hear this talking point anymore in favor of socialized medicine. The veil has been pulled back on the VA, and everyone knows what that looks like. This is just 9 million Americans. Imagine if we imposed it on 330, the entire population.
Pete, I have a question for you. With so many years of problems and more veterans seeking care and assistance, how is this fixed, in your opinion?
Great question. I mean, this is the second largest department in the government, $160 billion budget. It's got over 330,000 employees. I mean, think about that, 330,000 employees, the Department of Veterans Affairs. It is massive, and it is not a funding problem. So those in Washington who want to talk about the need for more spending and hiring more doctors, they're missing the point. This is not about volume. This is not about spending. This is about core principles. This is about changing a culture. This is about basic things like accountability, like transparency, like choice, that have not existed for a long time. Every single senior manager at the VA for the past 4 years has been given a fully successful rating. How that's possible, I have no idea. It's because the system doesn't actually hold anyone accountable. Same thing when it comes to choice. Veterans have never been able to choose another facility if they need to seek care, and there's no transparency. The VA never answers questions, and because of that, no one's held accountable properly for it.
Pete Hegseth, CEO, Concerned Veterans for America. We'll have to leave it there, but we welcome you back at any time to discuss this and some possible solutions in the days ahead as we take a look at what the administration proposes and what Congress proposes to try and fix this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you very much.
So you heard from Pete right there. We want to hear from you, your take on the implications of the continued problems with VA healthcare. Why don't you tweet us your comments at Newsmax TV, #AmericasForum. There's also email, our address, connect@newsmaxtv.com. And don't forget Facebook. Contact us there, facebook.com/Newsmax. America's Forum returns after this.